Okay, here we go. People have been asking about why I believe in what I believe in. Well, it's not really what I believe in, it's what our Constitution says. So, unless you have given up your rights to your Constitution, then you can choose to stand upon it anytime you want. Now, these cops out here are just fucking bullies. Because, for one, either they know what the laws are and they choose not to abide by them, or they're truly just fucking ignorant and don't know anything about the law, which that's not a fucking excuse either. But they try to make you do things that by law you don't have to do. And then when you don't cooperate with them, then they want to trump up all these charges about this and that and this and that. And they can try to trump up whatever charges they want. But at the end of the day, when you go to court, the law of the land will hold up. And they will be left looking stupid because they're not educated on what our laws are. Because when they put on that fucking uniform, they no longer have constitutional rights. Because they're protecting our constitutional rights. Now, when they take that uniform off, that is a different ball game. But while they're working, and they are public servants, they do not have the same rights as the public does because of the oath they took to uphold it. So, people can say this is nonsense, and people can say that it really doesn't mean anything. Well, that's your opinion. That's because you choose to believe other than what the truth is. And the truth of the matter is that as long as we allow them to treat us like it's Nazi fucking Germany, they're gonna continue to do it. And people may think it's funny, and people may think that, oh, you're full of shit. But if you really think about it, this is what Dr. King got killed for. And so many other activists that stood up for their rights. So it's not a game, because it's information that our government doesn't want us to know. And by them not wanting us to know what our actual rights are, then how can we be a free fucking state? Not just a state, but how can we be a free fucking country? Because I'm in the state of Texas, and these motherfuckers don't give a shit about your rights or your laws. They could give two fucks. But the interesting thing about that is when you go into court, they have no choice but to listen. So, people laugh at me and make fun of me and all this other shit. But every cop in this town that I live in knows that I don't have my registration stickers, that I do not have up-to-date plates on my car, and I do not have insurance on my vehicle. Because I do not have to have them. And if you stupid motherfuckers don't want to keep going through all these fines and all these fucking tickets, well then stop registering your fucking vehicle with the DMV, dummy. Because once you register it with them, it makes it their property, so you have to abide by their transportation codes. And if you don't believe none of this, you can go look it all up. It's all in the Constitution, your constitutional amendments. You can go read the black laws of the DMV. And this is everything they don't want you to know. And for the smart ones out there, they put the shit in places that they know normal people ain't gonna look, like a fucking book. Because they know an ordinary motherfucker ain't gonna pick up a book and read it. So if you ain't gonna pick up a book and read it to educate yourself, then you'll never fucking know about it because you chose to be a fucking dummy about it. And if there's people out there that want to be a fucking dummy about the situation, then by all means be a fucking dummy about it. But you can laugh at me all you want. Because at the end of the day, these motherfuckers know one thing about me. You're not just going to do what you want to me. And I'm going to exercise my rights. And that is a freedom that was given to me before I was even born. You see, most of you don't even understand that when our Constitution was written, the Constitution wasn't written for blacks, Latinos, and whatever ethnicities that were not white at the time. The Constitution was written for the white man. But you see, when the slaves got freed, then that meant we all have the same rights that these white men set for themselves in the Constitution. That's why cops don't want to accept it. Well, I was going to say the minorities, but they are the minorities now because there's more blacks and Latinos than there are whites. So they're the minority now. But y'all can't comprehend this because your brain doesn't expand far enough. Because you don't want to soak up new knowledge because you're not trying to have an understanding of what your rights are and what these cops are allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. And one big one is the Fourth Amendment. The Fourth Amendment says that they cannot search or seize your property without a warrant signed by a judge. So that means when they pull you over for a traffic stop, they don't have a warrant from a judge and they don't have a warrant to search you. So by law, there is no fucking law that says you have to answer a cop's questions. There is no law that says you have to identify yourself unless you're suspected of committing a crime, in the commission of committing a crime, or you're leaving the crime scene. And if neither one of those three are in effect, then there's no law that says you have to ID yourself. Because a failure to ID is a second charge, not a first one. See, 38.02 in the Penal Code states that one must already be under arrest for a crime that he has committed in order to get a failure to ID. So if I've committed no crime, then me telling an officer that I'm not giving them my ID is not a failure to ID because I've not committed a crime whatsoever. And if you don't understand this or you don't know this, these cops are smart enough to understand when they have somebody that knows what they're talking about in front of them. And then they have the common sense to know that somebody that doesn't know shit about their rights. And when you don't know shit about your rights, then this is when you get fucked. Because see, TRCs are a violation of codes. Our amendments and the Constitution are based off of laws. So if you violate or break no laws, then you've committed no crime. So therefore, a traffic stop is not a crime because it's an infraction of a code that the police force has set in motion. All police forces are private entities. That's why they're public servants. They work for us. You're here to serve and protect me. You're here to make sure that my constitutional rights are upheld as written in the Constitution. No variations, not what you think, but how it's written. So, for all you guys that think it's just funny and there's no merit to what's going on, I just suggest that you go educate yourself and find out for yourself, because it's truly sad, man, that our government doesn't want us to know what our true rights are. And it's sad that these cops are used to generate revenue. Because that's all traffic tickets are. It generates revenue for whatever city or town you're in. That's all it does. That's why they have a quota they have to meet. So they get X amount of dollars every month. And if you ever walk into a municipal courtroom and you see that it's packed, just think about it. If everybody in that courtroom has to pay a $200 fine, that's over $10,000 just for that one day. So it's a legal way for them to steal from us. And as long as you allow them to do it, they will continue to do it. But when you stand up for something that is not right, the society we live in, they'd rather kill you than to try to understand. That's why it is very important. When you do what I do, you must turn your camera on at all times. That way you can prove in court what happened, what was said, and it leaves nothing to the imagination because a video recording does not lie. So if a video recording does not lie, then you have nothing to worry about when you go into a court of law. Because most municipal courts would rather dismiss the case than for you to file an appeal and go to the Supreme Court. Because when you file in the Supreme Court, not only the cops that are involved, but the prosecutor, the judge, everybody becomes complicit in this act to violate your constitutional rights. And that's called an act of treason because they took an oath to uphold my constitutional rights. So, if you're interested, I have no problem speaking to you, and you have questions, feel free to ask. Because knowledge is power. And if you don't spread it, it does you no good to keep it to yourself. So, any questions, whatever you have, drop them in the comment box, and I'll get back to you, and I'll answer whatever your question is. And that's the end of this video.